Hey guys, Tom here. This time on the Chronicles, we're going to talk about something that's a little different, but it's definitely a big part of homecraft, especially around here, and that is making homemade wine. Now this process is a little bit involved, so I'm going to split this up into 3 videos, but luckily for you, you won't have to wait. They're all available right now. So the first part, we're going to talk about what you need to get ready, getting the products together, and starting the process. Stay tuned. Today, I'm going to show you how I make blueberry wine. Yes, you do need some specialty equipment, but I find that over the time that I've been making homemade wine, I've more than paid for it in what I've not spent at the wine shop or liquor store. Now, what you have to keep in mind with winemaking is that it's kind of like baking, where there is a specific recipe and it's more science than art. So you kind of have to follow along. You do get the knack for it, and you can change some things up, and I'm actually going to change some things in the basic recipe that I'm using, but this is more just to show you how cool this process is, and it's just another side of homecraft that we use around here to just enjoy the lifestyle of living and enjoying our home. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing you're going to need is some kind of container to mix all this stuff up in. This is you can see it, a 22 quart container that I got from the restaurant shop. You don't need this. I actually have gone to the big home improvement store and bought a 5-gallon bucket. Don't, however, if you're going to recycle something, don't use something that previously had paint in it or some kind of chemical. You can use a food grade bucket. Generally, this bucket, just look for the recycle symbol. This one is a number 2, and I generally think that's the one that most of your food grade buckets are. So just be wary of that. You can also, if you're not sure you want to commit to 5 gallons of wine like I'm going to make here today, I have made stuff in a 1-gallon jug, like a wine jug, or I've even seen people brew stuff recycled in like a big plastic apple juice jar. So, but I'll leave information and links of equipment and chemicals and stuff in the comments for if you're interested in a project like this. So the first thing, if we're going to make wine, we need fruit, and I'm making it from fruit you can buy. I have just made it out of juice, but today we're going to use fruit, and we're going to use quite a bit of fruit. So the basic process of how wine is made is you mix sugar and yeast. The yeast eats the sugar, and the byproduct of the yeast digesting the sugar is alcohol. So since yeast is a living thing, you don't want anything in here that can kill it. So we are going to sanitize everything, and this I've sanitized with a prefab sanitizing solution. You can, in a pinch, use a very, very, very diluted bleach solution, but I've never done that. I've seen it done, but again, if you're interested in a project like this, all this stuff you can buy online or at your local homebrew supplier. So the first thing, I have cleaned this out. The first thing I'm going to do is add my fruit to the bucket. I have 15 pounds of blueberries that I got frozen. It was a special that my local homebrew supplier had. But you can just go to the store and buy berries, or you can use fresh fruit. I've used fresh fruit. So I just had these in the freezer and I thawed them out, and they kind of leached a little bit out of the bag, but I'm going to put the juice and all in there. And what you want to do is you want to break these up a little, but you don't want to process them, because that can cause some problems for you. So I'm gonna just break them up with this potato masher a little bit, and you're just really looking to bust the skins. Some people put them in big muslin bags and just squeeze them. You can do that as well, but my having these frozen kind of broke them down a little bit, so that's going to work out well for me. Okay, so I have all my fruit in there. It's about roughly between 13 and 15 pounds of blueberries. So next I'm going to add sugar, and I'm going to add a lot of sugar. I'm going to add 11 pounds of sugar. Yes, that seems like an enormous amount of sugar, and you're right, it is. But what the sugar does, it's the food for the yeast. So the sugar is going to eat, or the yeast is going to eat all this sugar. Like I said, the byproduct will be the alcohol. So now we need to add some additives. The first thing we're going to add is something called pectic enzyme. What pectic enzyme is, you know, pectin, like in jelly and stuff, that makes the jelly set up. In wine you don't want that, so the pectic enzyme will help break it down. Next we need some acid. This is just an acid blend that's a combination of citric acid, maltic acid, and tartaric acid. When people talk about wines, they talk about their acidity and stuff. This is what's called yeast energizer, and what that does, it's basically just some additional food to boost the yeast and get it a kickstart. And then finally, this is crushed up. They're called Camden tablets, and basically what Camden tablets are sodium metabisulfate, and what that is a preservative. We're not preserving the wine at this state. All we're doing is, this is going to serve as a sanitizer that kills any, you know, wild beasties that have been living in the fruit and stuff. So you have a little more control in your product. So I'm going to mix that all together, and then I need to bring this up to 5 gallons. You can use water, and I do a lot, but this is where the kind of like the creative part of it comes in for me. I was at the store and I found a real good deal on berry juice, and you can ferment any kind of juice in the store provided it's 100% juice. And if you look at the label and it says that it has potassium sorbate in it, you can't use it because that's a preservative and your yeast will never grow in here. So I'm forever reading labels in the store. I'm just gonna, to bring it up to my 5 gallons, I'm just gonna use this. And then I'll just top it off with water. And speaking of water, yes, I'm gonna use water right out of the tap because I have a well water, so I know it's good, fresh, clean water. But if you're not sure about the water where you live, just go buy, you know, if you have bottled water, use bottled water. That's what I use bottled water a lot as well. So the next thing I need to do is just leave this go for like a day. And what's gonna happen in that time is the Camden tablets that I crushed up and put in here, they're gonna sanitize this mixture. And then in the same time they sanitize it, they'll dissipate. So there won't be any kind of preservative in here that will inhibit the yeast once I put it in. So I'm going to cover this up. I'm just going to cover this up to move it because I don't want to spill it. And then when I get it to where I'm going to set it, I'm going to uncover it, take this cover off. I'm going to cover it with a clean towel so the gases, you know, very simply, so the gases that dissipate from the sanitation process can escape. And I'll show you what that looks like in about a day or so. Okay, so I've had this sitting for about a little over 24 hours, and it's had a chance to sanitize the mixture in there. So now I just have some yeast. I wasn't sure about this yeast, so I just put it in a little sugar water to see if it was still good, and it's fine. So now I'm just going to pour that in. And cover it back up with the cloth. And let it go for about a week. So now that we're well on the way to making some good homemade wine, stick around for part 2, where we'll talk about what happens during the fermentation and taking the wine to the next step. So remember, take care of yourself and your home.